I call it the big meeting.
Durham big meeting.
Not the big meeting.
I always call it the gala.
I would probably say gala.
I've learned to call it gala.
Well, I call it the Gala.
And it's a Durham Miners Gala for me.
But I think it's easier just to say it's the big meeting. Everybody understands that.
During the 19th century, conditions in the mines were terrible. Deaths were commonplace. So there was a series of efforts during the 19th century to bring the miners together to confront the bosses collectively. And one of the great episodes in this respect was the 1831 miners' strike, which was led by Tommy Hepburn, and it ended in defeat. And for this reason, he holds a particular place in the pantheon of the Durham miners. So by 1869, of course, the Durham Miners Association was established. And in a sense, the gala really is an expression of this, of the breaking of the bond, insofar as it was a gathering to show the power of the miners rather than a gathering to sign the bond, which is what the miners would traditionally have done.
I mean, from the height of it, where you were talking about 500,000 or 600,000 people on the streets, maybe even more than that, we're now getting somewhere near that. We're getting up to the 200,000 plus.
I suppose if you wanted to say when was the peak of the power of the Durham miners, you would say it was probably in 1947 when the coal industry was nationalised. So the Durham Miners Gala became a state occasion to which the grandees of the labour movement came, prime ministers came, the American ambassador came, the Yugoslav ambassador came. So this was this tremendously important event.
For a long time, it was very parochial. You had to be invited by the Durham Miners Association or you weren't there. And then obviously when we started seeing the numbers drifting our own members, we opened it up big time, and so you got all other unions coming and support groups.
And I think a lot of, there's a lot of credit due to two men in particular, Davy Upper and Davy Guy, in the 90s by the time the pits had closed. We were down to something like 30,000 turning up, so it was dying, it was dying a death. And they took a conscious decision that they would try and revive it and grow it.
But since then, we've seen an enormous resurgence of the gala.
I think people are saying this is where we need to be.
The more people that started coming, the more want to come because the word's passed on. And I think once people see it, they see the bands, they see the colours, they see the banners, the messages on the banners, they see the camaraderie, they see the friendship. It draws people in.
300,000 people, brass bands, colour, noise, laughing, singing. It's just a really, really pleasurable day, It's a political event, there's no doubt about that.
They come for the music, the colour, the atmosphere, and, meeting old and new friends.
You see people you hadn't seen since the previous year, and you see even like brothers and cousins who haven't seen each other all year long, meet at a specific point. I'll see you on the steps on Silver Street, people see things like that. And they're there where they've been for the last 20 years.
Seeing the bands and the banners march in, all them people, proud people, good people. There's not a better feeling in the world than that. Absolutely fantastic. Emotional, but absolutely fantastic. Money can't buy that.
If you look at the very early accounts in the local papers of the Durham Miners Gala, two things stand out. One is the fear that there was among the middle class of Durham that the miners were going to arrive en masse. But secondly, what you get is that the event passed off with great discipline. So the bands and banners have been there from the very beginning.
I think my first one I was about 12 years old, so I've done about 15. Well, my first one I don't think I played a single note, to be honest. Just the whole atmosphere, it was like really overwhelming. But it's a great atmosphere, it's just like a completely different sound, and especially through Durham you've got some really open areas like in the marketplace, and then as you're heading down towards the county you've got the closer enclosed streets and the buildings there, so it just echoes and vibrates around that, and then you've got all the people as well, and people are right next to you as you're marching along, and it's a great feeling.
And it's the appreciation and the applause that the brass band gets when that tune finishes. You get the rousing of applause, everyone cheering, and it's at that point where I think this is special.
Each colliery had a banner, and that again helped you when you went to the gala on the field. You identified the colliery. So if you had a friend in another colliery, you looked for the banner and it identified who they were and where they were, you know. Since then, when the mines closed, and we've sort of trying to get communities involved, a lot of communities are raising funds. So not only have we the old original banners, but we now have new ones which are to represent their village.
So what you get is the villagers bringing the old colliery banners in, matching up with bands, and it's become again this renewed spectacle.
And there's a real sense of celebration and pride about it. You know, it's a huge day in the life of Durham, maybe 250,000 people coming into the city, a real celebration of the mining tradition, but also of the trades union movement, the depth of socialism, of community action, communities working together, way beyond the ceasing of the mining industry in the area, but continuing in the lives of those community with a great pride.
I think it reinvigorates a lot of people, you know. Sometimes you can feel a little bit isolated and the world's moving in one direction and politically you're standing still. Durham Big Meeting, you're united with about 300,000 people who are like-minded.
It's a big turnout of those people, and they tend to be more on the left.
The miners invited the speakers.
Prince Kropotkin, James Larkin, Tom Mann, Annie Besant,
Jenny Lee, Tony Benn, Barbara Castle, Rodney Bickerstaff, Laura Pidcock, Shami Chakrabarti, Dennis Skinner, who always told her, you know, the funny story.
But there's always been this tradition that the Labour leader has been a key speaker, but some leaders have been more keen than others in attending.
I think it would be the last gala before the war, and I can remember being brought in to the gala with my grandfather and an uncle who was 6'4", and he put me on his shoulder, so I had a lovely bird's eye view of the gala.
The gala of 1986, which was the first year that my dad addressed the Durham Miners Gala, wasn't always about celebration, because we'd just come through a period of 12 months of real struggle.
And we walked through the streets of Durham, and instead of getting a load of grief, we just got cheered and clapped as we came through. Good on you folks, you know, so that was pretty special as well.
In 2019, the last gala, my first as General Secretary of the Durham Miners Association, I had the pleasure of being able to address the gala, which was a massive honour. To be entrusted with carrying the message of the Durham Miners, all the history there and the proud history that we've got. You'll never find, in my view, a more decent, friendly, welcoming place than Durham on the second Saturday in July.
I don't think I could appreciate the gala any more than I do. It's in my DNA, you know, it courses through my veins, to be honest with you. Look forward to it every year, absolutely I do.
And when this is back next year, then hopefully it'll be as big as ever.
The idea of 250,000 people coming into the city on that day, I mean, just sort of lifts the heart. And the cathedral will be ready and waiting to play our part on a really special day.
And I think over the time that I've been there, it's been transformed, I think, into this celebration of community.
It's as relevant now as it ever was. Yes, we reminisce, but we're building for the future, and we're showing future generations what collectivism or our communities can achieve by working together.
It does give you a bit of an injection that whatever the next 12 months is going to throw at us, as a community, we'll beat it.
Working people can achieve anything they set their minds to.
If you're proud of where you come from, you're not prepared to put up with second bests.
William Crawford at the very first Durham Miners Gala said he hopes that wouldn't be the last. By God, it was an understatement. It's for the people, by the people. We need to build on it and try and grow it even bigger than it already is. I suspect 2022 will be the biggest for lots and lots of years.